This is the Royals POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Kansas City Royals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Royals even up the series against the Chicago White Sox, and I'll break down what mattered most in tonight's Royals POSTCAST. I'm Chance Liebau, your host for post-game reaction to Kansas City Royals games this season. You can follow me on Twitter at Chance Liebau. Tonight, we will be breaking down the most important plays of tonight's game, who stood out, and the topic you'll be talking about with your friends. Appreciate you all for joining us here, an evening edition of the Royals POSTCAST. 2-0 Royals. A really tough offensive performance. I believe that the Royals are now 0 for their last 30 with runners in scoring position. As dire straits as the offense is right now, Kris Bubic deserves an entire hour-long podcast episode. He was absolutely the guy the Royals needed on the hill tonight, and that is why we are going to be naming Kris Bubic our Locked On Player of the Game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
7 innings, 2 hits, 3 base runners, 11 punch-outs. That is how you set a tone for a ball game. He did not get off to a great start. The first inning was a trip and a half, but Kris Bubic was really, really good tonight when he needed to be. I thought the slider was as fine as it has been, as crisp as it has been since early last season. I think that the fun thing about Kris Bubic is he's just got so many ways to beat you, especially when he's cooking. And tonight, you got to see exactly what you looked for, or exactly what you wanted to see from Kris Bubic, who was from first pitch of the second inning until his last pitch in the seventh, was about as good as you could ask him to be, making quick work of that lineup. I mean, I'm not like blown away by what the White Sox are running out there from a lineup perspective on a day in, day out basis, but they're still fielding a team of 26 major league caliber players at the very bare minimum. 26 Major League Baseball players play for the Chicago White Sox. And Kris Bubic struck out 11 tonight, and no one really was all that competitive against him. I mean, he was strike after strike after strike. And if you look at what he did in his outing tonight, the velocity, I thought that was a positive sign. I thought he was very comfortable with his fastball, whereas in the past, maybe you haven't been able to see that from Kris Bubic, where he has that fastball confidence. But tonight, looking at his Savant page, 4 balls in play, 1 hard hit with the fastball. The slider, 2 balls in play, 1 hard hit. Only gave up 6 hard hits all night long. Average exit velocity under 90 miles an hour. He got a 32% chase rate, a 67% chase rate with the slider. Fastball was in the zone. It was a 63% strike pitch. He was doing all that he needed to do. He threw more sinkers tonight than he has in the past. He threw a lot more sweepers and sliders than you really see from him. Sweeper up 6%, slider up 10%, change up down. I think a lot of it had to be the fact that they were just playing a team that is not an equal in the Chicago White Sox, a team that employs quite a few lefties. And that allows Kris Bubic to be as dominant as he is. I don't know if we're at this point where he's improved his trade value. I don't want to talk about trading a guy on April 10th. But when you talk about Kris Bubic, the talk that's going to come with it is kind of going to be the attached either contract or trade that the Royals are going to probably have to make a decision on. And, I think that I have just been cautious about really putting a whole lot of stock in Kris Bubic because of the injury history, of the lack of a body of work, of the lack of a just absolutely wipeout pitch. When you think about all of the best pitchers in baseball, Skubal has an electric fastball slider combo. Skeens has that splitter sinker that he works on so well. I mean, all of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball have a really dangerous 1-2 combo and then things that they can work off of other than that. And they also have just elite level velocity. Kris Bubic is a enigma in the fact that he does not have that blow you away fastball. He more so has a really good complementary arsenal where you see that slider and that changeup, but then he can give you a fastball elevated in the zone. That's kind of where he was at tonight. The fastball was up, the slider was playing off of that. And when he has command, we've talked about this. We talked about this last year when he started to struggle and the injury really started to play into his performance. I think that when he commands his fastball, and tonight it wasn't his best command with the fastball, only 43% in the zone with the fastball. But when he commands the fastball, who's to say that he's not the best pitcher in this rotation, a rotation that right now is one of the top 5 in Major League Baseball. And I'm I'm all about Cole Reagans. I think he's one of the best pitchers in baseball, one of the top 10 pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. I'll die on that hill. I think that Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha are really good quality 2, 3, 4 starters in a rotation. Kris Bubic, his ceiling continues to be higher and higher than what I initially thought coming into the season, coming into last season. And even at times last year, you were kind of just waiting for the next shoe to drop for Kris Bubic. And then it eventually ended up being the injury, but there was just so much unknown about him. He hadn't been a starter really at all since Brian Sweeney had come over, and he pitched well in I believe it was 3 starts he had in 2023 with Brian Sweeney. And so there was just so much unknown about Kris Bubic. And now you're getting into what can the ceiling be? And the White Sox are a really bad offense. They're one of the worst offenses, if not the worst offense in baseball, probably the worst in the American League. Kris Bubic took care of business tonight, a la what Seth Lugo did last night. And he sets the foundation for what is likely going to be a really important Game 3 of the series tomorrow against the White Sox, because you can't come away with splitting with this team. After the pitching performances you got over the last 28 hours of baseball, you cannot split a series with this team. You have to win it. You have to take 3 of 4. I don't think that it's a negotiable in that locker room, in that clubhouse. This is a series where your first 2 pitchers pitched their tails off, and you got to go into tomorrow with a real sense of urgency, like, okay, they are doing their job. As an offense, we collectively have to do ours. So we are going to talk about the offense. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people wanting to talk about the offense because they weren't great again today. They are, I believe, 0 for their last 30 with runners in scoring position. We'll talk about some of the positives in today's offense when we come back here on the Royals Postcast. Today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. Today's episode is also brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure is on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, the offense today. Let's talk about it. I thought that the offense, it was the usual suspects. I think it's time to talk about Bobby Witt Jr. as a legitimate MVP candidate. I think that the work that he's done for this offense, it took him a while to really break out of his what we're going to call a slump, because the expected numbers were off the charts. The exit velocities, the launch, I mean, everything that Bobby Witt Jr. can do between pitch and swing, he was doing right through the first 10 games of the season. And over the last 2 games, he's finally tapped into his pop a little bit more. He's gotten a couple of balls down the line. He's driving in runners. It's something he did not do early in the season. And I think that it's hard for one player in baseball to really turn a team around on its own. But I think that if this team is going to have a turnaround offensively, or heck, even if this team has any inkling of being just within shouting distance by the end of June, I think that you're going to see Bobby Witt Jr. just go on an absolute tear. I think that we are on the precipice of him really starting to take off, because you're starting to see things be put together. His hitting has been an issue. This season, he's hitting the ball on the screws. He's doing everything he has to do at the plate. He's just had some bad luck, similar to what we've seen from Cole Reagan, similar to what we saw last year from Salvador Perez. And he finally broke out once June, and it got a little bit hotter, and the ball started to fly a little bit farther. I think we're going to get there with Bobby Witt Jr. And when Bobby Witt Jr. puts things together, I think there's no doubt he's the second best player in Major League Baseball, and has an argument being the best player in Major League Baseball. I think that if he can just tap into what he did in 2024, when he was second in the MVP voting, when he was hitting 330, when he had a 30-30 season, we're so close to seeing him really put everything together. And then you add in, well, Vinny Pasquantino, somebody needs to set his calendar to May. Somebody just has to do it. Set his phone settings, set something up. He can't hit in April. Carter Jensen, can we talk about him? He's a Rookie of the Year candidate. He might be the best hitter in this lineup right now. I think he's a top 3 hitter in the lineup and deserves to be lineupped accordingly. And I know that's probably not a real word, but Carter Jensen needs to be, at some point, we need to have the conversation of him being in a run scoring position, because I can tell you right now, hitting behind Vinny Pasquantino and Salvador Perez is not exactly what I would consider a run scoring position in the lineup. He needs to be hitting first. He needs to be hitting third. He needs to maybe even be hitting second. You need to have him in opportunities where he can drive runners in. He had opportunities in Cleveland, and he actually didn't come through. But that was off of the bench. He was a pinch hitter in that game. I think that they need to make a real decision in that clubhouse. This is our everyday guy in the 3-hole until Vinny Pasquantino can get out of this funk that he's in. Because I can guarantee you the answer for Vinny getting out of this slump is not, well, let's just leave him in this spot in the lineup and he'll figure it out at some point. You don't have the patience to wait for that some point. These games matter. This is not spring training. Get him lower in the lineup, put him in a position where he's not hitting in front of Salvador Perez, where he's not hitting with runners in scoring position, and get him in a position where he can create some offense instead of being the guy that halts it every single time he comes to the plate. But I thought that the offense tonight, I thought Michael Massey has looked really solid so far. I've actually been really impressed by what he's done since returning from his injury. I think that really provides you with a real platoon at second base. And Jonathan India has actually been hitting the ball fairly well, as some commenters have pointed out. I've been fairly pleased with what we've seen from Jonathan India. And then I just think that you just need guys like Jack Caglione, who did not have a good night tonight. He's in a bit of a slump right now. I think that you need to make sure that you're playing the right guys. I have not seen who's starting tomorrow for the White Sox. I'd like to, at this point of the season, I'd like to see Starling Marte get some reps in the outfield, whether it's a righty or lefty. I don't think Jack Caglione has earned the just saving grace of he's going to play every single day. It looks like it's going to be Fetty Wap, Eric Fetty tomorrow against the Royals. So the Royals are going to get a righty tomorrow with Eric Fetty. I'd like to see Starling Marte in the lineup against a righty. I was pretty happy with the signing. I thought it was a good move, and I'd like to see them at least give him an opportunity instead of playing Lane Thomas. I think that this is going to be a real crucial 2-game stretch, especially given the pitching performances we've seen over the last 2 days from the Royals. They need to have a really good showing over the next 2 days to give these fans something to hope for. It's dire straits right now in the Royals fandom, at least from a lot of the diehards that we have here in our channel. But that's not to say that anybody should be jumping off the bandwagon. It's a long season. There's still plenty of time for things to turn around or for things to get even worse. And we have to at least put our confidence in this organization to do the right thing and continue to try and build the right way and build the right team for this ballpark, for this team, for this city. But it's been a real rough start. But I thought tonight, Kris Bubic giving fans something to really cheer for. Bobby Witt Jr. seems to be on the precipice of something special, and Carter Jensen is entering some really intriguing territory as probably one of the top 3 hitters in this lineup, and he needs to be treated as such heading into this 2-game stretch against the White Sox where they try and close out the series with a win. All right, that will do it for me. Game 2 between the Royals and the White Sox tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. It'll be around 6 o'clock, I'm sure. A really quick game tonight, actually. Who knows what it'll be tomorrow, but we'll be back tomorrow night. It'll be Royals, White Sox, Game 3. We'll be back tomorrow, so don't forget, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because you want to be here for when we go live for the Royals postcast tomorrow night after Game 3 between the Royals and the White Sox. I'm Chance Liebau. Thanks for listening to the Royals postcast.